We got Iran first. So I'm going to start out with a video this time. We're going to start with Donald Trump. He has, so apparently, okay, for those unaware, the way that Congress works is, or the way that war is supposed to work in this country is that Congress is first supposed to approve the war and then you go to war. That's not how it's been done for the past like 20, 30 years at this point. At this point, it's the president decides to wage war. And then after 60 days, technically it's revoked, but you know, are there any consequences to that if he continues the war past 60 days? Not usually. But anyway, the House of Representatives recently passed a war powers resolution saying that Donald Trump is not allowed to go to war. It is, I understand that it is very ironic, or not ironic. We'll say generously coincidental that this finally passed after the war was over, you know? Like, I mean, I think some people who might be a little bit more conspiratorial minded might say that both the Democrats and the few Republicans that hopped on board strategically waited till after it would not have any actual real world implications. But hey, you know, believe what you want to believe. And then, but yeah, so then that went to the Senate and apparently it passed the Senate, but then Donald Trump said, nuh-uh. And he called in some people into the room and like yelled at them or something, I think. And so I think that's what may have happened. Anyway, this Fox News video should go into that in a little bit more details. So let's go ahead and see what's going on here.
Welcome back. Tensions remaining high in the Middle East as U.S. negotiators are working on trying to seal the deal with Iran. President Trump praising progress on the agreement and the impact of U.S. action.
Thanks to the power and skill of the United States Armed Forces, today Iran has no Navy, no Air Force, no anti-aircraft capacity, no missile launches, no manufacturing, and their leadership has been obliterated. And for the first time in 3,000...
I mean, I guess I'll go over it again just because there's always a chance there's a new viewer. They still have, according to estimates, about 90% of their manufacturing capability, which is obvious because they put it all under fucking mountains. Like anybody who knows how Iran designed their economy understands that it is near impossible to actually cripple their manufacturing. And then obviously there's been also widespread reporting that they still have about 70% of their missiles and interceptors from pre-war. I don't know if that includes what they have been producing during wartime, because according to Iran, they have been increasing their production during wartime. It hasn't gone down at all. It's in fact gone up. So anyway, it's all just, you know, whatever, but we'll let him have his moment. I want this war to end, so we'll let him have his moment.
1,000 years.
Sure, Grandpa, whatever you say.
We are finally going to have peace in the Middle East.
Trey Yingst is tracking it all for us. He joins us live in Tel Aviv this morning. Hey, Trey.
Yeah, hey, Bill, good morning. Shipping data tracker Kepler told Fox Business 69 vessels passed through the Strait of Hormuz on Wednesday, the highest number since March 1st. This comes as America's top diplomat, Marco Rubio, is in the Middle East, meeting with counterparts about the Iranian war and keeping the strait open.
We're going to go over this a little bit later. I don't know. This video may have come out before a ship was struck, but if you see this like northern path, like going up through here, usually, like in between, I think it's usually in between these two islands. That is the one that Iran, the IRGC, has approved. If you see any of the ships going down here, like around the Gulf of, or the coast of Oman, then those are the ones that the IRGC has not approved.
And toll free.
What we're interested in is not their press conferences. What we're interested in is whether or not ships are moving. If ships are moving as they should be moving, then that's what we're going to judge and that's what we're going to react to. If, on the other hand, this rhetoric is backed up by actual ships being threatened and ships are not moving, that's a violation of the agreement and we're going to have a problem with it.
Technical discussions between the United States and Iran are set to resume next week, according to the Pakistani Foreign Ministry. The ceasefire between the two countries is moving forward while the focus remains on the Strait and Iran's nuclear ambitions. On Wednesday, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte met with President Trump at the White House to discuss the war with Iran and other pressing topics such as Ukraine. Next month, President Trump will travel to Turkey for the NATO summit, but says that European allies let the United States down on the issue of Iran.
We were let down. We didn't need help on this at all. We demolished them in literally the first week. But it would have been nice if they would have said, we'd like to help. I was disappointed with Italy. I was disappointed with the UK.
Well, dude, you literally spent the entire preceding like year just decimating them with tariffs, like just constantly getting into trade wars with them, belittling them, telling them you're going to steal Greenland, telling them you're going to invade Canada. I mean, like just basically shitting on them the entire time, and then also kind of cozying up with Russia a little bit, which the EU really doesn't like in particular. Yeah, no shit, they didn't want it. And then obviously this was an unpopular war where you did literally no propaganda to get us in, like, to get even the American populace invested, let alone like the populaces of our quote unquote allies, aka vassals. Like, yeah, you didn't put in the work. You didn't put in the work, buddy. That's like these people, they still seem to think that like the reason that like Bush like decided to go on his like propaganda tour of like trying to make the case to the American public and then saying that they're going to bring democracy to the Middle East, like, oh, the reason that they're doing that is because they were like all woke and shit. George W. Bush, notoriously woke president. Yeah, they were just so woke, and that's why they did all that shit, not understanding that like none of the people in the Bush administration actually believed that shit. Like, it's propaganda. It's not for them. It's for like, it's to try to get people on board for the war, and they didn't put in the work. You didn't put in the work, so of course they weren't going to the like NATO allies weren't going to be invested. Their populace, I'm sure that their populaces definitely didn't want them to like send NATO troops and stuff out, or NATO troops and stuff out to Iran. And like maybe their government would have potentially wanted to, like, because they're all nice little vassals to America, but they couldn't justify it to their people because, like I said, you didn't put in the work. So this is really just your fault, Donald Trump. If you wanted NATO to actually come in and help you isolate Iran diplomatically, you should have just put in, and I'm telling you, it doesn't take much. It really doesn't take that much, because most people are propagandized to their core that America good, right? Like, and so you just have to give them just the tiniest little bit of like distance, like, so that they can say, well, I guess we're doing it for a good reason, like that's all it takes for a lot of people. And if you would have just put in some little tiny bit of effort into that, you potentially could have gotten a lot more allies and stuff to get invested in this, but you didn't. So that's what happens.
UK, he's now gone. We're disappointed with Germany and France. We're disappointed with most of them. Spain is a horror show.
We're also tracking developments between Israel and Lebanon. A fifth round of talks is underway between these two countries, but the Iranians today say they are demanding that Israeli forces withdraw from southern Lebanon. Bill?
They are always demanding something. Trey Yingst live in Israel. Trey, thanks.
Well, they did win the war.
And a vote to rein in President Trump's Iran war powers falling just short in the Senate. This after several Republicans pulled their support at the last minute. The president celebrated on Truth Social, saying the vote puts Iran on notice. And Senator John...
Okay, my understanding is that this actually already passed. Like, am I wrong? Like, it did pass before, and then they re-voted on it, and then it like unpassed. But my understanding is that also doesn't nullify the previous one that passed. Like, let me see. War powers resolution passed in Senate. I know it passed before. Let's see. Yeah, from a day ago. It says it. Congress passes war powers measures for the first time. Right here. This was from a day ago. So they passed it. A handful of Republicans joined Democrats in Tuesday's 50-48 vote. The same measure was passed by the U.S. House of Representatives earlier this month. It came as Republicans in Congress have expressed skepticism, blah, blah, blah. So it did pass. So it is official, regardless of this secondary passing of this bill that says it didn't pass. It already passed. Like, I don't know what the purpose of this secondary vote where it didn't pass. Because, like, I mean, I know that they're going to, regardless of whether this happened or not, they if they wanted to go back to war, they would just say, oh, it's actually a new war or whatever, and we get another 60 days on it. And then we would just be we're only like legally allowed to go to war for 60 days, I guess now is what it would be like. But yeah, this doesn't mean anything. The fact that it didn't pass the second time doesn't nullify the first vote, but whatever.
Kennedy joins us now. This is one of the topics in yesterday's luncheon. We'll get to the rest of it, but a quick thought about the Iran War Powers Act.
Well, we won it last night. I'm much relieved. You have to understand what these resolutions are. They're resolutions by the Democrats to direct the president to cut and run in Iran. And
yeah, as is their right. Because Congress is supposed to declare wars. How many times do I have to teach you this lesson, old man?
And day before yesterday, one of them passed. And that's why our meeting with the president was like an episode out of Euphoria.
Ew.
He came.
No. Oh, God, no. Don't say that, dude. You know that he was like best friends with Epstein, right? Like, don't say that. Oh my God. I haven't seen Euphoria, but my understanding is that they are all in high school. So like, don't say that, dude.
Men smoking hot. And I'm not talking about his looks. I mean, put yourself in his position. He's negotiating with Iran, and all of a sudden, Congress, with Republicans' help, pulls the rug out from under. But we got it straight last night, and I'm very, very pleased. I don't know. I think they're making progress in Iran. We'll know in 60 days.
You've got some patience there, and the president's running out of patience, though, on the SAVE Act. This is something that he said after the lunch yesterday.
We just had a colourful lunch on the Senate, in the Senate. Would you be open to a compromise measure that had provisions of the SAVE Act into a reconciliation?
Not really. No, the SAVE Act should be. It's not compromise. It's voter ID. It's proof of citizenship, and it's also the mail-in ballots.
So he says he's not willing to change the language. This is what he wants. And then you have some...
Okay, I have a separate story for the housing bill, so I'm not going to go over this right now. I thought that they're not really covering it how I heard. I heard that it was a very colorful, like, I mean, I know they said something out of Euphoria or whatever. Not the best analogy, but I would say don't say that about our pedophile president. But what I heard was that he yelled at him, and it was the Cassidy guy, the one that he just beat. Or that Trump just like the Trump endorsed CIA pick or whatever beat, and I can't remember the other guy, the other good one, I think, that also got beat in his primary elections by the Trump-backed candidate, if I remember correctly. And so he like yelled at them, and then they went and reversed it, which is interesting. I don't know why they would necessarily, but you know what, it's up to them, I guess, if they want to follow along with Daddy Trump at this point, even though they're lame ducks. That's up to them. So, okay, let's go ahead and move on to an article to get more. Actually, let's start with this one first. So I kind of talked about it, but apparently a ship has been struck in the Strait of Hormuz. So let's read this short Washington Post article about it. A ship attacked in Strait of Hormuz as Iran threatens UN-backed route. The attack on a cargo ship comes after a spike in vessels using a new shipping lane set up by the UN and Oman. A cargo by Todd C. Frankel. A cargo ship was attacked Thursday as it tried to pass this, through the Strait of Hormuz while appearing to follow a new route promoted by a UN maritime agency. This is like, why is the UN doing this shit? I mean, I know why. I know why. They are, they're going along with America, right? America, I am sure, is telling the UN exactly how they want this to go in order to try to disempower Iran. The problem for them is that Iran has the might. Iran has the military power to close the strait at any point that it sees fit. And this could have been a just mild exercise of their power just to shut down this secondary route. The attack quickly dashed hopes that ship traffic might have found a narrow passage through the ongoing blockade. Well, it's not really ongoing blockade anymore. Iran is letting all ships through as long as you go through their ports. The unidentified vessel was hit by an unknown projectile, damaging the ship's bridge but causing no injuries, according to the UK Maritime Trade Operations Center, a security information hub. It was not immediately clear who was responsible for the attack, but Iran on Thursday had issued a warning about using the new shipping lane, which I had seen that as well. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, Navy. And I was thinking when I saw that, I was like, dude, you got to stop. You're gonna get shot, dude. Iran has been very they follow through on their threats. This entire conflict, they have been very, very trustworthy when they say you got to stop doing this or we're going to attack you, and they do it. So I think that they probably should have listened to them when they said that. I mean, I guess if they don't care about their, the people on those ships, or they don't care about the inventory on those ships, then sure, whatever. The IRGC Navy said in a statement that safe passage through the strait was limited to routes designated by Tehran, and that other routes were unacceptable and completely dangerous, according to Iranian state media. The attack comes as shipping traffic was picking up along this new route, passing close to Oman. On Wednesday, nearly 50 cargo-carrying vessels passed through the strait, the highest single-day count since the start of the war with Iran. I think they usually get, on a normal day before the war, 60 or so, if I remember correctly. Let's see. According to the maritime intelligence company Windward, the company estimated that 13.4 million barrels of oil made it out, but that traffic was only about half in value terms that what was seen before the conflict. Yeah. Most of the traffic surge followed a path set up as a temporary corridor by the International Maritime Organization and Omani officials. It was not immediately known if shipping traffic had been halted by Thursday's attack. Well, it's definitely going to be more expensive, and I think people are going to steer clear of that route for a while. Let's see. And I wanted to go over this at the same time. Confirmed Strait of Hormuz crossing rose to 70 on June 24th, up 105% day on day as demining efforts advanced and operators increasingly used the Omani route. Commercial traffic accounted for most activity with 53 transits, while low-risk vessels dominated the day's profile. Yeah, that makes sense to me. They're testing the waters. These shipping companies are testing the waters, and they're I think they're probably doing their least risky vessels with the least amount of cargo possible to start with, if I had to guess, or the smallest value at least. The U.S.-Iran MOU framework and apparent lifting of the U.S. blockade appeared to have supported a short-term confidence boost, although IRGC warnings against use of the Omani route could create a new source of contention. IMO route use picked up slightly, but continued dark routing, incomplete demining, and unresolved issues over inspections, sanctions, and future strait governance mean the rebound is not yet confirmed return to pre-crisis conditions. This is, I don't know which day this was, Wednesday. This was Wednesday, so yesterday. So like I said before, this northern path, that's the one that the IRGC has officially said is good to go. As long as you go through here, you are safe and you can trade, go do as much as you want. But this route down here close to Oman is the one that they say is not allowed. So we can watch from yesterday. You can see a decent amount going up here, but you also see a bunch kind of coming down here as well. And yeah, like I said, the UN was the one I think that tried to push people to start using that new route, probably on at the behest of America, if I had to guess. America tried to, because America is trying to quote unquote win the peace, even though they didn't win the war, they're still trying to win the peace. I don't think it'll be possible for America to do so, but so this is one way that they're trying to do it, by trying to disempower Iran from actually having control over the strait, or trying to give people the perception that Iran doesn't have control over the strait, well, even though it does. So yeah. Let's also talk real quick about Israel, Lebanon. We're going to read this article by Times of Israel. Jerusalem and Beirut frustrated with Trump hampering U.S. plan to... let me read that again. Jerusalem and Beirut frustrated with Trump hampering U.S. plan to phase IDF out of Lebanon. This is by Jacob Magid. Rubio confirms U.S. Using Israel-Lebanon talks to push for Israeli pullback in parts of South Lebanon, but neither side cooperating after D.C. agreed to deal giving Iran sway in Lebanon. Washington. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio confirmed on Wednesday that Israel and Lebanon were discussing a potential scale back of Israeli troops from southern Lebanon as part of the negotiations mediated by President Donald Trump's administration in Washington this week. One of the issues that's been discussed in these negotiations is the creation of pilot zones, specific defined areas where the Lebanese armed forces can go in, take control and secure the territory, and then move on to the next pilot zone, Rubio told reporters in Kuwait. By the way, this is never going to work. It's never going to work. They've tried to do this so many times in the past, man. Every single time, every single negotiated withdrawal of Israel from Lebanon, which there's been so many in the past, has been on the condition of the Lebanese army coming in and taking over the territory from Hezbollah. And guess what? It's never fucking happened, and it's not going to happen this time either. The Lebanese army is just unable. It's just unable to compete with Hezbollah. Hezbollah is like a actual real military, and the Lebanese army has been systematically destroyed and weakened by Israel and America because Israel doesn't want Lebanon to have a strong army. All right, so there's no way that they can compete with Hezbollah. So as soon as Israel leaves these zones, Hezbollah just takes them right over again, and that's definitely what's going to happen here as well. Rubio defended, and by the way, even if America doesn't get Israel to do this as a part of this deal, which it seems like America might be actually trying to get them to do this, Israel would get pushed out eventually anyway, just because Hezbollah is a guerrilla warfare, and it would become too costly. It might take years, but it would become too costly for Israel to maintain. Rubio defended the current Israeli military buffer zone in southern Lebanon, saying the only reason that exists is because Hezbollah was using the area to launch rockets and drones at Israel. Well, hey, go create a buffer zone in your own damn country, which basically has already happened because they've evacuated a lot of their territory as well, because Hezbollah is able to still launch rockets into Israel. The more of that area that the Lebanese armed forces is able to secure, the less of it is in Hezbollah's control, the less Israel will be in Lebanon. That is not true. That is not true. The less that Hezbollah has control in southern Lebanon, the more Israel will be inside of Lebanon. It's look at the West Bank. Hamas is not in the West Bank. And look at how many Israelis and settlements there are in the West Bank. There's over 500,000 Israelis illegally occupying the West Bank right now because there's no Hamas there. If there was Hamas there, then there wouldn't be this problem. There would not be this many settlers. Just like in Gaza, when they used to have settlements in Gaza, and they were eventually forced to take those away because they were all essentially just military bases that were constantly being attacked all the time. And so eventually they had to unilaterally withdraw from Gaza. So yeah, without Hezbollah, there would be more Israeli occupation, not less. That effort did not appear to be going well, though, with the government official and a second source familiar with the matter telling the Times of Israel later Wednesday that the week's rounds of talk between Israel and Lebanon have been the least productive to date. The two sources cited mutual frustration with the Trump administration's decision to make a ceasefire in Lebanon part of the memorandum of understanding it inked last week with Iran. Both Israel and Lebanon were opposed to the idea, arguing that it undermines... Why is Lebanon opposed to this shit? That's crazy, man. That's crazy. You would rather have them occupy your territory than have Iran say that Israel must withdraw from your territory. That's crazy, dude. Both Israel and Lebanon were opposed to the idea, arguing that it undermines the purpose of the channel between their two countries that Washington established in April. I need people to understand that Lebanon and the Lebanese government and the Lebanese army are all just puppets of Israel, okay? The fact that they are agreeing on this just proves it. They are all just puppets of Israel. They are not sovereign. The only people with sovereignty are Hezbollah. And the only reason the Lebanese citizens have any sovereignty is because of Hezbollah. Anyway, both Israel and Lebanon were opposed to the idea, arguing that it undermines the purpose of the channel between their two countries that Washington established in April, specifically to prevent Iran from maintaining its influence over Hezbollah and Lebanon, the two sources said. The Israeli anger at Washington has led it to be less inclined to accept U.S. requests that it begin pulling back some troops from southern Lebanon, the government official said. Yeah, I mean, but Washington could force them to, like, so easily. It would be so easy for Trump to say, okay, well, then you're not getting any more weapons, or you're not getting any more intel, or you're not getting any more tanks, or you're not getting any more fighter jets, or you're not getting any more like money or aid in order to prop up your fake ass economy. You're not getting any of that shit. We'll see how long they could last without that. I'm telling you, it would collapse within within like months. Like Israel would be like economically destitute and militarily would be like impotent. Like they're not a real country, man. They are an extension of America. Lebanon, meanwhile, feels that it must take a harder line in negotiations with Israel to counter the notion that Iran wields greater influence over affairs in Lebanese territory than it does. The source familiar with the matter explained. Accordingly, the Lebanese government has presented maps for a proposed withdrawal that are much more expansive than what Israel is willing to accept at this stage, which was already very little due to the political pressures Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government is facing, the source added. What a surprise. Your decision that is not backed up by any sort of military strength to have Israel withdraw significantly from your territory isn't going to work. Wow, I am shocked. Shocked and chagrined. I can't believe it. Yeah, this is why Iran this is why you need Iran if you want them out of your territory. Like, they're not going to get out of your territory, at least in the short term, without Iran. And they're not going to get out of your territory in the long term without Hezbollah. The U.S. was hoping that the 3-day talks set to wrap up on Thursday would conclude with an announcement of a pilot program whereby the IDF would withdraw from small areas of southern Lebanon, cleared of Hezbollah military infrastructure, and be replaced by the Lebanese army. However, such a development currently appears less likely, the two sources told the Times of Israel. A State Department spokesperson did not respond to a request for comment. Porous ceasefire holds. The second day of talks between Israel and Lebanon, which took place at the Pentagon and focused exclusively on security issues, ended on Wednesday evening without any public statement. Thursday's sessions will take place back at the State Department and focus only on political issues, with the U.S. pushing the sides to make enough progress to be able to issue a public statement reporting as much, the source familiar with the matter said. Classic. They just want the talking point, man. That's it. But even as the talks proceeded on Wednesday, Israel and Hezbollah exchanged fire in southern Lebanon, with the IDF saying it carried out a strike on a vehicle that crossed into Israel's self-described security zone in the Ali Tahrir Ridge area, aka their occupation. Lebanese media reported 2 dead in the strike. Separately, the IDF said a soldier was moderately injured in an operational accident in southern Lebanon early Wednesday. This is kind of crazy that it feels like 1-for-1 at this point, where Israel strikes, kills a couple people, and then Hezbollah strikes and kills, injures a couple people or whatever. It does feel like it's relatively even at this point. I think a lot of that has to do with their drone capability at this point, which Israel just can't do anything about. The soldier was taken to a hospital. His family was notified, and the circumstances of the incident are under further investigation, the army said. Rubio defends U.S. Lift of Iran sanctions as part of give-and-take negotiations. The frustration with the U.S. extended beyond Israel and Lebanon and appeared to be the reason that Rubio jetted to the region this week. He made in the UAE, Kuwait, and Bahrain he made in the UAE, Kuwait, and Bahrain as part of a tour aimed at assuring Gulf allies of Washington's commitment to their security after the war Trump started left them significantly more exposed to Iranian threats. Yeah, exactly. If these people have half a fucking brain, they will, and I think they are. They, like, behind the scenes, I think they are, but they would be diversifying their security stuff, security arrangements. I'm telling you, Iran will protect you more than America did in any sort of future conflict, okay? So at the very least, you should start counterbalancing against America with Iran. While in Kuwait, Rubio defended the Trump administration's decision to lift sanctions on Iran earlier this week, insisting Washington has to make some concessions as part of the negotiation process. Anytime you enter into a negotiation, it's a process of give and take. This is a temporary measure. It's for 60 days. As a result, we expect them to live up to the commitments they made in Switzerland. If they don't, the president has a lot of options at his disposal. Yap, 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 yap. Going to blow them into the Stone Age again? Are you going to rain fire and fury on them again? What new eloquent verbiage is he going to say this time for the thing that he never fucking does? Like, sure, buddy. Yeah, sure he is. I mean, not to like it's not like he's ever going to see this. Like, I wouldn't say this if I was in the halls of Congress or whatever, but he has said quite literally that he is going to destroy Iran like maybe 100 times throughout this conflict. And it didn't ever really happen. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. The U.S. first asserted that any sanctions relief that Iran would enjoy would only commence after Tehran made concessions in the 60 days of talks that kicked off over the weekend, following the signing of a memorandum of understanding last week to end the war between the two countries. But then the U.S. went on to acknowledge that some relief would be upfront in the form of a waiver on the sanctions against Iranian oil exports. Then on Monday, the U.S. lifted major sanctions to allow Iran to trade oil in U.S. dollars and delisted blacklisted shipping vessels under a 60-day temporary waiver. To be honest, I think that's just to expedite the market, like to getting oil onto the market as quick as possible. The exact same reason that that Trump was forced to give up in his war was that the economy was about to explode. And so they're trying to mitigate that as much as they possibly can. There's not even a guarantee. Like, I know that the prices are down and stuff. There's not even a guarantee that like they're going to still save the reserves or whatever. Like, the oil reserves that these countries had were on their last leg already. If they keep drawing them down even further before these like ships can get to the countries and like start restocking their reserves, like it could end up still creating a inflation of the price of oil regardless, but who knows? We'll see. Given the U.S. insistence that sanctions relief would be based on performance, those more sweeping steps apparently came in response to Iran's decision to allow UN nuclear inspectors back in the country. That was the only concession that the U.S. has said Iran agreed to make in last weekend's talk, although Tehran denies having done so. Rubio also confirmed that the next round of technical talks between the U.S. and Iran will begin early next week in Switzerland. He said those taking part in the talks will be beneath his post, so he will not be there, though more senior meetings have been led by U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance, not Rubio. So there's what's happening with Israel, Lebanon. Apparently, America is trying to get Israel to at least verbally agree that they're going to allow some sort of like staged withdrawal, but they haven't even been able to fucking do that yet, which is crazy. Just say it, dude. This is like why they're so inherently self-destructive. Their fascist ideology is they can't even like give like the optics win that they need in order to like that America needs in order to allow Israel to continue doing all of their genocidal ambitions across the region, right? Like, America is just asking, hey, we just need a talking point that we can put out there that you're doing this, and they're like, no. It's like insane, man. They're crazy. Okay, let's move on. We're done with Iran. That's the Iran section, everybody.